Hi guys, welcome to this week's video. This week is going to be all about how we travel with our dog Scout. It's all the things that we find work well and all the things that we have with us to keep this guy happy while we're traveling on the road. So Scout is a really great traveller. He's a pretty easygoing dog. The only thing is he really likes other dogs. So when we're walking and stuff, he'll try and pull to get to other dogs a lot. But travelling wise and travelling full time, he's great. Whenever we pop him in his little bed in the car and we start driving, he's asleep pretty much instantly. When we slow down in towns and things, we put the window down and he gets to explore and have a look at where we're going and what we're doing and what we're looking at. If we are having big driving days, we try to just stop every so often, let him have a run around, a wee, look up different dog parks and try and stop along with those so he can have a nice off lead run, time that up with a toilet break and water and all that sort of stuff. Well, he's a great traveller. He's living the life really, just travelling all over Australia and just exploring new places. One of the main things that we find is helpful is we've got a pet ID tag from a non-for-profit organisation called Tags for Hope. We found these were really good because you can fit a heap more information on the tag. So if the dog does get lost, there's a lot more information that people can gather if they find them. So you can put microchip numbers, you can put if they're friendly, you can have a photo of them, you can put a few mobile numbers, an address, any other information that will help if somebody finds your dog to get it back to you. Just as an example, on the back of ours, we put that just to search Overland Obsessed on social media if they can't contact us by phone, just to get in contact with us because we know that we got this tag for when we're traveling. So if someone was to find Scout, they'd be able to get in contact with us pretty easily. Another thing we got done, obviously, when he was a pup is he has a microchip. So if he is picked up, hopefully they'll be able to scan his microchip. However, we have heard that New South Wales isn't in the National Register, so it may be worth putting them on the National Register, which we haven't been able to figure out how to do yet, but we think it's something that would probably be worth doing. So for Scout's collar, we've just got one of these waterproof collars. They're on eBay, I'll put a link below. Basically, they're just sort of covered in a waterproof plastic material. We find this helps greatly when he's going swimming in the beach and he gets wet and dirty and muddy, because obviously it's not going to be soaking up those smells or all the moisture, especially when it's cold and wet as well. You want them to be able to dry off, so this isn't going to be holding moisture around his neck, which helps greatly. We've also got a lead the same. So this is his basic everyday lead. It's exactly the same. It's got a bit of a reflective strip on there, and both of these actually glow in the dark. So they soak up the sunlight during the day, and then at night when you're walking him and things, it does glow a little bit, which is helpful. We've also just got a very basic carabiner that we put on the handle, and that just helps if we just need to clip him quickly to something. We can just loop it around and clip the carabiner to the lead itself around a pole or something like that. We just find that so much easier than having to hold him, unclip the lead so you can put it back through itself if you just need to put him on something for a few minutes or whatever. We have another lead that we take with us as well. This one's also waterproof. We just find if we can get anything in a waterproof option, we'll take it, because traveling full time you don't want things that are wet, smelly and stinky. So this just stays really nice and tidy and clean and not smelly. So we've just got a retractable lead. This one's a pretty heavy duty one, maybe 3 or 4 meters, and it's good just for walks where you want them to have a little bit more freedom, but you don't want to let them go off lead. We find that really helpful for things like that. When we are walking Scout, we try as much as we can to put the harness on him and lead him from here. This little loop goes on his back and this part's around his chest. So if he does start pulling, which he does do to get to some dogs and things like that sometimes, instead of the collar pulling on his neck, that's sort of pulling and stopping him at his chest, which helps to restrain him a lot and doesn't have him choking. Another thing that we find really helpful round camp is just a tie-out wire. You can get these at like cheap shops and all of that. Usually they come in with one of those big pegs that you can screw into the ground and clip them to, but we just pop this around some of the bar work on our patrol, and we'll just have him on that around the campsites a lot of the time if there's people around, or if we don't want him walking off. It gives him a fair bit of space, and he's got his own little area to explore, but he can't wander off. The only annoying thing about these is you can get tangled under certain things like the tires and tables and chairs, but it is really good to sort of just keep them restrained for a period of time. Don't use the big screw-in pegs that they come with. We've just got some big snow peak pegs that actually have a little hole where you can actually clip and fit a clip onto. So if we're anywhere that we want him to be a bit further away so he doesn't get caught up in different things, we can just hammer a big peg into the ground and clip this on, and he's got a big free area that he can roam and explore. So we've got a little jacket for Scout in Tasmania, or I think maybe just before we went over to Tasmania. I'm not sure exactly where this was from, either Pet Barn or Pet Stock, one of those sort of places. This is like a thermal lined, so it's really, really warm, and it's really easy to fit on. You just sort of pop it over their head like a jumper, and then just clip it up with their paws, front paws through both of these. And he loves it. You can also put your lead and that through here. Whenever we pull it out, he runs up and wants us to put it on him. He absolutely loves it, and it was really helpful in those cold climates, and it's held up quite well. You can really tell that this reflective stuff does hold in body heat and keeps the warmth inside. I would find myself putting my fingers and hands in up underneath it when I was cold because it was so warm in there, and I kept saying I wish they made a jacket for people like this. So it was really nice and warm and kept him warm when it was really, really cold outside. So we do have a few toys that we take with us, but we don't really like giving toys to Scout because when we're camping they can get lost really easily and they don't last very long. Something we've found that lasts a very long time, and Scout loves chewing, so this works perfectly for him, is just these little antlers. So there's no animal cruelty in these. Deer aren't hunted for the antlers or anything like that. They do just fall off over time, so they cut them up and they sell them in little pieces. They sell big ones, thick ones, different shapes, some where they're cut through to the marrow, lots of different shapes and sizes. We've had a couple and they last ages. This one's probably maybe 3 months old, and they're really hard, but dogs really like to just chew on them for hours, and they've got that tasty marrow and stuff inside just like a bone, but they don't smell. They're not gross like a butcher's bone where once you give it to them it goes manky. They last ages and they're really good for their teeth and stuff, so we've found these absolutely awesome. Being on the road, we don't have much space, so all of Scout's bowls are collapsible, so we've got a few of them. We've got some spares as well because they seem to go missing, but obviously that's how they work. They take up hardly any space. We use that for water and for his bickies. So we basically just feed Scout regularly biscuits, one time a day, a couple of scoops of biscuits. We go through sort of the grain-free options through the supermarket. We used to get ones through Pet Barn, however the supermarkets have really stepped up their game with a lot of the options that you can get now, so we get good quality food from the supermarket, and Scout seems to like that. We also get him, you know, a bone here and there and leftovers and things like that as we travel, but his regular diet is just dry biscuits. So it's really easy to store just having dry biscuits, not having to store anything in the fridge, no meat, nothing like that. So we just keep his biscuits in a dry bag. Basically that means that no moisture can get in or out. The biscuits don't get sweaty or anything like that. They store really, really well in here. We're very surprised. We just fill it up as we go. When he's getting low, we just get another bag and pop it in there. It's just a dry bag, so the top just rolls down, and then we just keep a little scoop to scoop out his biscuits into his bowls. So as we're traveling, poo bags we never can have enough of. Even if we know Scout has pooped recently, if we take him for a walk, he will poop once or twice in the most embarrassing areas in front of as many people as he can. So we always try to take poo bags wherever we go on walks with him. We do forget all of the time, but it's something we try and grab whenever we're taking him out. So for tick treatment, flea treatment, worms, heartworms and intestinal worms and ticks, we treat Scout with a once a month NexGard, which covers all of those things. It's just a chewable tablet. Most dogs like them and just chew them up like they're a treat. Scout, however, does not. So I try and like mash it up and put it in something like peanut butter, or shove it in the middle of a bit of meat or cheese or something like that to get him to eat it. However, that's worked so well. We have seen a tick on him that was already dead before we pulled it off. He has no fleas, seems really good and healthy, and because we're traveling everywhere, there's different things like worms and ticks in different areas, and this seems to just cover everything, so he's healthy no matter where we take him. So the other thing is Scout's bedding. Before we left, we made him a little bed frame. I just hand sewed some shade sail around the frame. We just pulled it really tight, and we just got a big needle and pulled out some paracord, internals of paracord as the stitching, and just stitched it all around. And that frame actually goes in and out of the car. So that's his bed inside, and it's also his bed outside. So no matter where he is, he knows that that's his spot. We just grabbed a waterproof, a little sort of bedding cushion from eBay. It's basically just a mesh material which covers a waterproof cushion. So the way the bed frame works is because it's the shade sail material, if he is wet or dirty or sandy, it doesn't really matter, nothing's being absorbed into it. It'll just fall through and we can shake it off when it's dry. So Scout absolutely loves this bed. He loves anything that's sort of a rough texture, so as soon as we put that down, he just rubs and rolls around on it. It's really light and airy, and because of that, it'll be great in summer when he's wet. We can even wet that down, and because he's just going to be just off the ground, the air underneath him will keep him really cool. So apps that really help us because we are traveling with our dog full time are wiki camps. We usually use the Dogs Allowed filter and just try and search for different areas to camp, and also points of interest that you can visit with pets. Do keep in mind though that sometimes there will be sites that don't have a Dogs Allowed or a Dogs Not Allowed. There's just no dogs mentioned, and sometimes dogs are fine there. So just if it doesn't say dogs are allowed, just check it out and see if there's any signs or anything. Sometimes you can miss those places because you've just got the Dogs Allowed filter on. The other few things that we find really handy if we do need to go places, if we want to go to national parks or go out somewhere where we can't take Scout, is dog sitters. We've needed them a few times over the last 7 months with, say, getting our car fixed up with different things and going to places that we can't take him. The best places we've found is community notice boards on Facebook. Just in general areas people are happy to look after or let you have pop them in the yard for a play date with their dog, just while you go out and get a couple of things done. Or the best apps for pet sitters, if you actually want to have them overnight or like actual daycare looked after in a yard by someone there the whole time, is Paw Shake or Mad Paws. They're just trusted pet sitters that are all vetted, and they look after pets from their own home. We've found them really helpful. Apparently you can get vets and things to pet sit. We haven't had that happen yet. We've called a few, and they just say no, they don't do that. So I'm not sure what areas do, but we have heard that some vets will let you just pop them in there for a few hours while you go and get something done. As we're traveling, obviously, because we're camping and we're outdoors a lot, Scout gets dirty very quickly, and we do try and wash him. Sometimes at car washes these days, they've got DIY dog washers, and at Pet Barn and things like that, where you just put some money in, just like a car wash, and wash the dog. We've used them a couple of times, but also we've found dog groomers to be great. Usually they're pretty reasonable. They'll let you leave the dog there while they wash them, so you could sort of time that up with maybe going grocery shopping or going out to eat somewhere or visiting something whilst the dog gets washed. When we've had him washed at a groomer, they do such a better job. He's completely dry at the end, so a lot of the time we'll wash him and he'll just go and then get filthy again because he just roll around in the dirt. At least when you go to a groomer's, they completely dry and clean, and then they check, you know, their ears and their nails and all of that as well. So we find that's really, really valuable. Yeah, so all in all, that's basically all the stuff and all the tips and tricks that we have and use to keep our little guy happy on the road. Obviously, if you have a few dogs or a different pet or something like that, it'll be different for you. But they're the things that we find really helpful to have, and over the 7 months has really, really been a big help traveling with him. All his needs are met. He's a happy guy traveling. He loves traveling with us. So if you do have a pet and you're currently traveling or thinking of maybe traveling with your pet, hopefully some of these things have helped you. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye! I just hand sewed some this little tag's what am I trying to say?